Well, folks, welcome back to the channel. And I wanted to show you this. I know a lot of you want to see me get into the old iron, and we're getting there. But I do appliances too. And if you ever have this problem, you'll find it handy. So this is a GE General Electric dryer. It has what's called the mica heating element in it. This heating element is actually a pretty good piece of equipment with a couple of exceptions. That would be what is called the common connector down here. And I'm hoping that shows up. But you can see how that connector is burnt black. And that wire is a little burnt. If you look right there, you'll see how the insulation's bubbled. That wire the element has to be replaced because that connector is part of the element. And that wire has to be cut back to past where that insulation bubbled. Well, as you can see, they don't give you any extra wire. You know, that might cost them a whole 1/10 of a cent in manufacturing. God forbid we do that. The other side of the element you can see here, see what those connectors are supposed to look like. So what we're going to do, I don't have the element yet, but we're going to just do the wire repair for now. So I'm going to take you over to the workbench and show you how I'm going to repair this wire, because we have to add length to it, but it has to be high temperature connections because you're in a dryer that gets up to 150, 160 degrees and has the capability of going above 200 degrees. So I've got some things to set up on the workbench first, and I'll show you what we're going to do there, and then we'll come back and we'll fix the wire here in the dryer, and then we'll do the element on another video at a later date when the element comes in, because I had to order a new one. I didn't have a used one here. So with that, let me get you over to the workbench and I'll show you what we're going to do. Okay, we're over here at the workbench, or the vise actually, on the workbench, and you'll see we've got a piece of high temperature wire. We've got a high temperature stainless steel terminal. We've got some 50/50 solder, and we've got some flux. So what we do, we go ahead this wire, I stripped it back about 1/4 inch before we got on the video. Go ahead and mount it in the vise. We also have some heat shrink tubing, which I'll explain in a few minutes. We put the spade terminal on there. Now I prefer a set of line pliers for crimping. They make regular crimp tools. That I'm going to leave up to whoever. However you want to do it, you do it. So then what we do here, and I've got a MAP gas torch, is we heat this up. There we go. I prefer to solder my connectors on in high temperature situations. It's not a requirement. It's something I prefer to do. Then you take out your heat shrink tubing, and this is just a little miscellaneous package I think I picked up some number of years ago at Harbor Freight. And go ahead and take it out. As the name implies, when you heat it up, it shrinks. And so we'll get that, and you see it slips, or that's a little tight. We want something a little bigger. So there's one. We want to slip easily over the wire up to the connector. Put it back in the vise. And then when you hit it with the torch, see how that shrinks up? That just protects your connection on your wire. Gives you a good soldered connection. And what we'll do now is I'm going to take it over. I'm going to put a light in the drum so you can see it. And we're going to splice the wire again with heat shrink. And it'll just be, this is a good solid repair that should last for years on any dryer or any high temperature situation. You can do the same thing with ranges. So I'll go over and get everything set up on the dryer, and I'll be right back with you. Okay. For those of you who are thinking, well, you could sand that and reuse it, don't. The bad connection it would create would burn the wire off again in just a matter of a few uses. So what we've done here is we've taken the wire retainer that's stuck in the back wall, we've popped that out so we can get the wire here a little closer to work with. Now what would happen if I got any closer to this, and I might just end up doing this anyway, is I would zip tie it through that hole in the back wall, but I think I've got enough here to work with. We'll see how good the wire looks when I cut it. So you come in here and cut back behind where the insulation's bubbled. You can see here where it's bubbled and burnt. Never reuse that kind of a connector. It'll just fail in no time. So we bring it forward. That wire looks good. Some dummy left his wire strippers over on the bench. So I'm gonna go get them. Be right back. Okay, so we'll strip it. Yeah, that wire looks good. Now the key here is to remember to put your heat shrink over the wire before you solder it. Now I'm going to have a little extra wire on here for if this ever happens again. So what we're going to do, we're going to cut it off right about there. This dryer is kind of noted for this failure. Slip the heat shrink on over the wire. Sounds like my grandson's home. See if he manages to interrupt the video. We got that. So how do we put those two together? I'll use a butt connector. I'm not a real fan of butt connectors, but in this case, it's really the only way to do it. And you crimp this down. And then you solder it in. And I just realized my battery's at 2%. Let me get a fresh battery. Okay, I'm back. Had a little detour there. The neighbor's cows got out, so we had to go put them back. Anyway, if those of you who are paying attention would have noticed I screwed up and I didn't flux the wires. So what I did was I put flux on top of the wire, that way, or on top of the connector, that way it can run down. So we'll back way up here, try to get enough heat on it without torching the wire. It's really, really tough. I used to have a smaller torch that seems somebody needed it more than I did. Not my best solder job by far. So let that cool off for a minute, and then we'll slide this up here. I'm probably gonna have to cut this little extra tippy off here. Should be enough. Let's see if it'll slide over here. Oh, not quite. We'll get it. There we go. That should. Okay, that's better. So we'll take this piece of heat shrink down here, cover up that connector. Hit it real quick with the torch, shrink it up, we're good. So that's it for tonight. When I get the element in, we'll video replacing the element. There's not a lot to it, and then I'll video putting this dryer back together. This dryer is kind of a pain to work on, to put it kindly. And where I really have problems is putting the belt on. For sake of argument, I'm going to show you what happens now. Well, you can see it. Okay, you have to put the belt on from the front. You've got the motor pulley and the idler pulley. The idler pulley pulls back this way. The belt comes around here, loops under the motor pulley, and then comes back up the left side of the drum. And you have to do this blind. It is a giant pain in the keister, to put it kindly. So I will show you what's involved in that on the next video, but I want you to see the components, because when you're trying to put it together, you have to do it blind. So on that note, we're going to call it an evening. I want to thank you for watching. If you like what you're learning here, please subscribe. And I'm hoping probably 2 to 3 weeks from now, we're going to start in on that easy washing machine, and we're going to start tearing it completely down, and you'll be able to see some old iron finally getting done around here. With that note, thanks for watching. Have a good evening.